All right, I got another one for you guys. Going to be talking about GDC 2024 and how it is lost. So, yeah, GDC's been going downhill for a number of years now. I've been paying attention to some of the conference stuff going on over the past few years, and it's just been getting more and more political, more and more ideological. That chunk of the GDC has been getting bigger and bigger year after year, and 2024 is the pinnacle so far. There is a significant portion of ideological bias going on in the panels this year, and in the crowds as well, because you can see here, one of our first things we want to talk about is this crowd of people gathered outside of GDC, screaming into the void about Gamergate, the patriarchy, and the games industry in general, apparently because the games industry that they work in is problematic and it needs to be changed. So, yeah, I mean, you're working in it. You are the games industry. Then you change it. But, you know, they don't want to do that because then that would, you know, ruin their grift. But the more you see this, the worse it gets. I mean, you can see a girl there with a mask on. Let's just full screen this and give you the full perspective here. So, you can see these are the people that are making your games, and they don't like you. They hate you, and it's clear in the products that they make. But yeah, and it's clear there's an awful lot of soy in this crowd too. That is for certain. I would be willing to bet that these aren't even actually the developers, or even like artists or creative types of any matter. I would be willing to bet that the vast majority of these people are like narrators, consultants, designers, you know, those kind of people that are just telling you how to inject the politics, not how to make the game. That would be my guess. But yeah, GDC is full of these people, and the games industry in general is also very full of these kind of people, and that's where this is coming from, because GDC is a slice of games. It is kind of a microcosm of what the games industry has become, and this is no exception to that rule. So let's just take a look at a couple of things here. I wanted to kind of go down the list of some panels. I downloaded the whole CSV of every panel that GDC was having this year. Picked out a few choice ones to talk about, and also want to get into some of the analysis I did. I put some charts together about how much of this is ideological and how much of this is still about games. There is a significant portion still about games, and you know, I mean, like the big three engines had their presence there. People went for those reasons to kind of learn about some new tech and some new techniques and methodologies and whatnot. I don't fault them for that, because that's what GDC is supposed to be about. But the other stuff is there in a major presence, and it's getting more and more every year. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to start right off with this Fair Play Summit that they were doing. So this is very much ideologically biased, very ideologically based, rather. And you can see, like, the first panel that I picked out here, non-binary by design. We're just going to go into this real quick. Persistent gender roles within the gaming industry inform a great deal of content that gamers and devs observe, interact with, consume, and ultimately make. Joe Greylock, they, them, and Rowan Noel Williams, they, them, will talk about the challenges associated with creating content that is made by and for gender non-conforming folks. With a combined background in game design, narrative design, and writing, as well as both being leaders within their fields, they speak to how they're working every day within their respective creative disciplines, as well as how they're doing at their company on their flagship product to break away from gendered language and play. So, as I said before, these are not developers. These are game designers, narrative designers, and writers. So they're basically injecting their politics, their ideology into your games, and that is their job. And this is the kind of people that end up giving you pronouns in Starfield. This is the kind of people that end up giving you body type A and body type B, and gender sliders and whatnot. So that's where those things come from, is people like this, and they have a panel at GDC, a major presence at GDC. I mean, more of a presence than, you know, I would have, or any other indie developer like I would have. Or even, you know, the AA developers would have. So yeah, that's this is the favoritism at work. This is the politics being injected in your games. Next one up is another Fair Play Summit. Digital thriving in a post-pandemic world, a pro-social blueprint. How do we build more inclusive and resilient communities in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, a time when many people shifted to using online spaces as their primary means of engaging with the world? This question takes on renewed importance. To tackle this question, this panel brings together experts on the psychology of games and online engagement with practitioners who help design a game for empathy and inclusion from the ground up. So basically, this is your friendly, non-challenging, non-aggressive game design, so that you can have your little hug box in your game, and the people that actually wanted a challenge, wanted to do something that they can have some achievement to. They just twist in the wind apparently, and that's where this is coming from. This is your walking simulator, your QuickTime events, that kind of thing. That's where this comes from, and they want to make games easier so that people can just kind of coast through it and not think about things. And then they're using COVID-19 as their injection point, basically. And who the heck is still talking about COVID? I mean, I live in a fairly blue area, and ain't nobody talking about it. Nobody cares anymore. Everybody has moved on for a long time now, and now we're seeing that these people have not moved on even from that. So that's where we're at. So they're using this yet again as a way of introducing an easy game to developers, an easy game for game reviewers, for gaming journos and those kind of things. So that's kind of where this is coming from, I think. But again, it's about that inclusion and diversity, making sure that people have a safe space in the gaming online world. So that's that one. Next up is building a climate resilient games industry roundtable. Collaborations between developers, scientists, and industry partners. So this is more the ESG score basic thing. So the E in ESG, very much so about climate. So just going to read a little bit of this. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. Dive deep into the intersection of game development and climate activism. Off to a great start. Designed for climate-conscious developers and facilitated by Dr. Clayton Whittle, a climate psychologist and green games design specialist, this focused roundtable session centers on pragmatic discussions about how the games industry possesses both the power and responsibility to address climate change. So they're trying to inject climate change into your games. And this is where you get, for example, in Starfield. Now, the biggest city in Starfield is powered by water, is powered by hydroelectric power. So in a world where you have starships that can basically take off and fly into space on their own power, where's that power coming from? Yeah, it's atomic power, because there's no other power source in the world that can produce that kind of output. So when you have like a freaking spaceship the size of an RV that can go into space and fly between planets and bend space-time to its will, that power source is only for spaceships, and we're going to have water. We're going to have hydroelectric on our city because that's ecological. It doesn't make any sense, but in their mind, that's how this works. But that's where those kind of things come from. And I had a huge problem. That was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm a dork, but I had a huge problem with like that cognitive dissonance between like, I have a spaceship that can basically blow up planets because of the power that it takes to bend space-time, and these idiots are running on hydro. I don't think so. So that's where these kind of things come from. And this is all that ESG stuff. This is how they get those ESG funds to make these games, is to basically say, well, we're going to preach to our audience about environmentalism so that they can do better, and we're gonna change to be carbon neutral in our studio, in our offices, so that when we're making games, we're making them carbon neutral, or we're just gonna buy offsets, which is what most of these companies do. But that's where this is coming from. And again, yet another big presence at ESG, the E in ESG, yet another presence at GDC, the E in ESG. So there you have it. And let's just go on to the next one. This is the infamous one. So you've been canceled. Now what? This is another advocacy topic. Can someone who has hurt others, even repeatedly, actually change? What comes after the call out? What can someone do if they've been called problematic but aren't totally sure why? Or after losing friends, jobs, and networks, how does a person move forward if they want to become someone who won't cause that type of harm, even unintentionally again? For the last 2 years, Respec has been talking to people in the games industry who have been called out, confronted, canceled, or fired for wrongdoing, harming others, or crossing boundaries or consent. By balancing compassion and accountability, Respec believes that restoring humanity to the experience of causing harm better fosters long-term change. So they're trying to. This is a struggle session. This is what they're proposing. At least that's what I'm reading into it. That's where the accountability comes from, and the compassion is the compassion that you're supposed to experience for others, because you're bigoted and terrible and racist, and you need to accept accountability and be compassionate to those people. But this is what this is. I mean, this is a standard tactic in the industry. They cancel people and then they force them to have these struggle sessions in order to account for their wrongdoing. I mean, this is basically a religion, and not one of the good ones, not one of the light ones, more one of the satanic ones, in my opinion. Because I think any sort of Marxist philosophy is very satanic, and this is no exception. This is very Marxist. This is very stereotypically Marxist, and Marxism hates religion, hates any other form of religion. It is very anti-religious. It's very secular in its nature, and it wants to stamp out all religion. So that's where this is coming from. I got a little biblical there. Sorry about that, but it does happen. And this is your struggle sessions. This is your provide accountability and turn back to the way of Marx and turn back to the way of the way we say we should be. So that's where this is. That's another interesting panel that has made some waves at GDC, and I'm sure that this was a more popular one amongst the crowd that was certainly the crowd that was screaming outside of GDC there. So that's that one. And then there's one more here. This is the LGBTQ+A2S plus and Global Queer Community Roundtable, Alphabet Soup Edition. So the LGBTQ+A2S plus and broader queer community faces unique challenges in the games industry, from discrimination and a lack of representation in leadership roles to pay equity issues and workplace microaggressions. This roundtable aims to provide a platform for the alphabet soup industry, games industry professionals to share their experiences and discuss potential solutions for improving the representation and inclusion of queer people in the industry and in game content. Discussions include an overview of the current state of the industry, key areas of concern, and actionable steps to improve the representation and inclusion of queer people in the games industry. Now, yet another friggin' thing, like, no one cares. No one cares. And if there are pay equity issues, it's probably because they have identified the queer people as being in lower positions, like, low-level writers or whatever. And because the managers are not queer and they make a lot more money, then this has to change and blah, blah, blah. And it's not even related to their sexual preferences. It's related to the job that they took, the jobs that they're doing. Go to school and get a management degree, get an MBA, and then be a manager. Become, work your way up into those areas. Don't blame your LGBTQ-ness on the fact that you're not in those positions. Just work on it. And no one cares. Believe me. Nobody cares what your sexual preferences are. They only care what you're able to do in terms of your quality of work, your skill level, and your experience and knowledge. And that's the way that engineering has been, and especially game development, for time immemorial. So this is just a contrived excuse to, inject more politics, yet another way, and bringing microaggressions into it, of course, stereotypical stuff. So let's just move on here to this analysis I did. So this is basically, I took all the categorizations they made and kind of merged a couple, like the fair play stuff I put in advocacy and whatnot. So you can see kind of a breakdown here. A lot of this is not related to games. And I would put design as part of that because those panels are not really related to games. But I think I did end up putting this into games. The business side is not related to games. but art definitely is, AI definitely is, dev definitely is, AR, VR, community isn't, career isn't. I mean, you're supposed to be there to learn how to make better games, and those things certainly apply, but the other stuff not so much. So I basically took that and broke it down further and basically made two categories: games and not games. And you can see about making games is 61% of the conference, and not making games is 39%. So we're just shy of 60-40. Maybe next year we'll be just shy of 50-50. Honestly, I mean, that seems to be the trend. But I mean, that's a substantial portion for a game development conference. Nearly 40% of it is not about making games. That's not a good sign. So that's kind of where we're headed with this. This is not a good situation to be in. And you can also see from the past week, with all the people on Twitter about, having GDC in their bio. I mean, that was hilarious, because it was like a guarantee. Whenever you saw someone with GDC in their bio, they had a really terrible take about games, and it was consistent. It was every single time. I got blocked by a few, but yeah, it was an interesting thing to see. So yeah, I mean, GDC I think is lost. I think that as developers, we need to kind of step away from this conference. Maybe find a different one, make our own, whatever. But that's down the road, I think. And honestly, I don't know if it's even necessary these days. I mean, GDC was formed in the days before the internet was as prevalent and capable as it is today. You went to GDC to learn how to write games. You can do that on YouTube. You can do that on tutorials and forums and whatnot. I mean, we have basically GDC 24/7 on the internet right now. You can learn how to use Godot. You can learn how to use Unreal. You can learn how to use Unity, and all of the art and music programs that you could possibly imagine. There's tutorials out there for everything. There's forums out there for everything. There's discussions going on all the time. You don't really need GDC anymore. So I guess it is to a certain degree vestigial. And maybe the wokies can have it. At the end of the day, maybe the wokies can have it. But yeah, I mean, that's GDC in a nutshell. Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. It's a bit of a long one this time, but I really wanted to cover this and talk about it a little bit. If you enjoy these kind of videos, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.